From Immersive Labs, this is Cyber Humanity.
Hello again, I'm your host Chris Pace. Cyber Humanity is the podcast taking cybersecurity personally, trying to get inside the heads of hackers, as well as putting our feet in the shoes of defenders. These podcasts essentially come in two flavours, either us ranting about themes close to the hearts of security types, or us chatting about threat and security stuff from recent weeks. And this episode is one of those. I'm, as always, joined by my cyber posse in the form of Kev Breen, Paul Bentham, and Max Vetter.
Hello. Oh, hello. Look at once again. It's because he wasn't here last week. He wants us to not forget about him.
Hello. Hi.
Hello, I'm Kev Breen. I'm Kev Breen. I'm back.
You can't change everything while I'm away.
I didn't change. I changed literally 3 words that I say. I mean, it's not difficult, Kev. There's not a lot that you're expected to do.
We used to say hello ourselves, and now we don't.
So a lot's been going on since we were last together. We talked Twitter maybe a week or so ago. The Twitter hack, but it's back on the agenda. There have been arrests. By the way, I don't think any of the arrests were the people that Brian Krebs outed.
I was also going to ask, was it Joseph O'Connor having a massage in Spain that got arrested?
No, I did go through and check the names, but there wasn't the person. Essentially, there wasn't the person that he had named.
It was kids,
So,
wasn't it?
Graham Evan Clark, 17-year-old mastermind.
Alleged.
Hang on, you're reading the word mastermind. Where are you reading this?
That's on the
Engadget.com.
Engadget.
Oh, okay, that's pretty surprising. It's mastermind.
They've got it in air quotes. The 17-year-old mastermind.
They've got it in air quotes.
I did the air quotes, but you couldn't hear it.
It was kids though, wasn't it? We said it was kids trying to get the old original gangster.
Did we know that there was a UK kid? Like, was that in the initial?
It's got to be UK. We're the best hackers.
Not sure this is a thing we necessarily want to be raising our hands to.
Paul loves that. He always
Digital
loves
natives. We're a great little island, punching above our weight. Rule Britannia and all that.
And for any of our listeners in other parts of the world, Bognor Regis is
It's a great seaside town.
It's like a sleepy seaside town on the south coast of England where most of the shops are in bifocal.
What does that mean? I don't even understand what that means.
Well, it's the only way that the people who live there can see what's going on in the shop window, isn't it?
It's a pretty strange place to find a mastermind
There's
hacker.
a 17-year-old mastermind hacker
It
living there.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's just kind of an odd place to find a hacking mastermind, but maybe there's not enough going on.
Wasn't Marcus Hutchins from some sort of sleepy backwater as well?
Yeah, with the West Country.
Yeah,
Devon,
because you're bored. All you got is the internet. You kids in busy places of the world. They go out and get drunk.
I mean, to be honest, just good to know they've got the internet there. That was the main thing I just learned from the article.
Hang on, what do we know about this then? So, 17-year-old mastermind. Who was he? What's his online handle?
No, the 17-year-old mastermind is from Tampa, Florida. There is a a UK suspect.
Yeah, so the suspects include a 19-year-old British man from Bognor Regis.
I got fuddled. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's the other question that I wanted to ask then, because I have enough challenges collaborating with our US colleagues with the time zone challenges. So how is that working? I bet it's just because the guy in Bognor stays up like super late.
Yeah,
that's what I used to do.
Yeah. What, when you were orchestrating hacking?
When I was online gaming or things of that nature, not in the criminal mastermind hacking the world.
Yeah, I'm sure, Kev. You've never strayed into the grey area, have you, Kev?
As far as this podcast is concerned, I've never strayed anywhere near any grey zones.
Of course you haven't.
So actually, looking at this, we've got two UK suspects, haven't we? We've got a 19-year-old from Bognor Regis and another 19-year-old guy also in the United Kingdom, and then we've got the two in Tampa, Florida, who they're suggesting are the masterminds, aren't they?
Yeah. And interestingly, he was involved in theft of 856,000 cryptocurrency last year, because of his age, he was not charged or convicted or anything.
Did he get to keep them?
No, he did. He did not get to keep them.
When we talked about this on the podcast a couple of episodes ago, Paul actually made the point that, maybe because it's Bitcoin, they don't really think about the value of it and it's easy come, easy go. And we kind of went, yeah, moving on. But it seems like that might have actually been true because, the guy stole I forget how many Bitcoin it was, but they said it was worth like $800,000. In fact, now they said it was worth even more, like 1 point something million.
Yeah.
We often talk about what's the gateway hacking, right? So where do you get started? When does your enthusiasm as a child on the internet turn into something that gets into criminal activity? This guy, Clark's gateway drug was duping people on Minecraft.
What are those gateway hacks that get people to and Marcus Hutchings has talked about this. He did an interview with Wired where he talked about kind of how he it always starts quite low level and then just escalate. But in this case, this has become almost like an international incident now. Everyone's got opinions on, how bad it is that Twitter can get hacked and what the impact of that is.
What are gateway gateway hacks? Okay, what were our gateway hacks that got us into info? So I'll tell you what mine was. I don't know whether this is actually illegal. I haven't been arrested for it, so I think it's fine. And it's a long time ago now. When I was at school, we had a careers library. I don't know if anybody else had a careers library, right? But we had a library. It wasn't a normal library. It was a totally separate place.
Yes,
Did you have one of
that's
these?
right.
And there was books about what you can do in your career. Well, so I was in this careers library, and the careers library is a room on its own. You can go in there and ponder, what am I going to do with my life? And at 16 or whatever, let's say I was 15, because that's below the age of some legal thing. So I'm in the careers library, and what shall I do with my life? There's an unattended computer in here. I wonder what I could do with this unattended computer that's connected to the school's network. Maybe I could play Doom on it. That's what I could do. So, how do you get the computer to play Doom? Well, you bring in a boot disk on a little floppy that boots it to DOS, and then you install Doom, and then play Doom in your lunchtime. Brilliant. Until you get caught.
That's pretty spot on with... Usually kids will get caught either hacking into their school network or hacking a game.
Or the other one is trying to find ways to get around the filter. I remember when I used to work for a company that provided web security. One of the challenges we had with lots of education customers was basically the kids were too clever for the software, so they'd know all these ways of either using proxies that weren't in the list of proxies that were supposed to be blocked and stuff like that. Yeah,
but we work with the NCA, and one of the guys who deals with criminals most of the time, they joked and just called him the youth offending guy, because every time he would go to these properties where the worst hack has happened, it would be 11-year-old. So literally he would have to take an appropriate adult every time to make sure things got done properly, because there's so many people that are young and hacking.
What was your gateway hack, Kev?
Before I was interested in computers, I was interested in explosives.
Stop, Kev, stop. There was a time.
Wow.
There was a time that you weren't interested in computers.
No, okay, yeah. So there's never really been a time, but I was interested
is Kev about to tell us that his gateway drug to hacking was
bombing,
explosive.
Basically blowing shit up.
There's a story here, and I was interested in not doing full scale massive explosives, but prank explosions. So I built a very small, little incendiary device that went into my school locker, and there was
just a small one.
There was issues.
Just a small one.
But how I got there was through something called the Jolly Rogers Cookbook.
Ooh, I used to have
heard about this.
I've got this.
Yeah.
You can get arrested for having this.
Yeah, it's terrorism offence now.
As part of this, they had stuff in there on freaking beige boxing. They had stuff on BBSs. And that's really what kicked my interest. So I was like, yeah, okay, that's done. And I've been kicked out of my school now. My parents are very unhappy with me.
Whoa. You got expelled?
Yes, I did.
And that wasn't even for hacking.
Yeah, that wasn't even for hacking. This was for a April Fool's joke that was Anyway,
I could tell he was a little bit sheepish about this. I'm glad we went down this path now. My little careers library story is
Was this the
fairly tame
incendiary
by
device?
comparison.
Yeah.
anyway,
So what
so
did you do to this locker when you exploded it for an April Fool's?
it
Kev?
never went off. Gary Moxon, was that his name? I told somebody else about it, and
Never
They
do
dobbed
that.
you in. They dobbed you in.
I think he was like kept looking and peeking, and then then I was in physics at the time, and then like the head and the deputy head, they come in, and it's like, Kevin.
So wait a
Sir?
second. Gary, what's his face? He knew that you were going to put an incendiary device in your locker, and in order to like see what's going on, he kept peeking at it. There's a bomb in your locker, and he's peeking at it.
To be fair, like I was still young, like I hadn't correctly done anything. There was no danger of this thing ever doing anything. Like it was completely.
Yeah, but you thought it was. I
in
mean,
the-
at the time, you thought it was.
At the time, I thought it was going to be hilarious. Obviously, everybody around me didn't.
There's perspective. There's perspective here. There's perspective here for this story. You thought that it was just going to be a
bit of fun.
laugh. It was just going to be a bit of fun. Oh, look, we can make fun of people by hacking their Twitter, and it'll be a laugh, and maybe we'll make a bit of Bitcoin, and it's all great. Like if you're 17, the ages of 17 to 22, you have no perception of any kinds of consequences, and B, you do most of what you do is just for a laugh.
This was if I wasn't even 62, I would have been 14, 15 at this point.
But isn't there a thing about the way that your brain develops? Like at those ages, you basically have no real comprehension of the consequences of anything.
I can attest to that. Like, I had no idea the consequences, and like didn't stop there. So from there is where I then started to kick into cyber. So I found some old school BBSs, joined those, started talking to me. This is when the internet was all text with a couple of pictures. And then I found some zines from there, and then some people showed me how hacking was a thing that you could do, and how I could use that to get my own back on the school that had.
Oh wow! Oh, wow!
Wow!
We're not going to get any more out of this story.
No, yeah. So so that's that was my gateway.
Kev, you're a pretty and maybe some of this is to do with what happened after school, like the military and all that. But you're a pretty straight down the line, kind of do the right thing sort of bloke. So are you? It seems like you're alluding to the fact that there was a moment in and this is back again similar to the Marcus Hutchings thing, right? There was a moment where you had a choice to make about how far you were prepared to go down that path.
Yeah, and a big part of that was my mum will love me for this, but it was the whole I'm not angry, I'm disappointed. It cuts you deep.
It gets you that.
Yeah.
It's like wait till your father gets home. It has power.
And then I joined the military, and then discipline starts setting in, and there's responsibilities, and then that focuses you, and then hacking and stuff went away from being a thing that you did for fun, and people started to weaponize it, and people started to use it, and then I've always had morals. I've never been completely immoral. It's just there was a point where I realized that actually I took more enjoyment in doing the other side of that than I ever did playing around those fringes, and I've never gone really, really deep into that world, but I've been along the fringes, especially when I was a kid.
I think the concern, and this is I'm trying to make a serious point here. I think the concern here is that a 17-year-old, they don't really. We've already said they don't really understand the consequences, and now the hack itself is so high profile that what's happening to them is incredibly high profile. Their name is out there. They might never ever live this down. That kid, that was responsible for the TalkTalk hack, he will never be able to move past that due to the scale of it and the publicity that it got at the time. And in some ways, this is even worse. And then we've got comment in the news from experts, talking about, well, I'm not surprised it was a 17-year-old, it was sloppy and all this. That's not helpful. If the suggestion is that a 17-year-old understands the consequences of them doing something that they did really just for a bit of fun and for some kudos and for credit amongst the community that they exist in, I think that's missing the point completely. And I think we need to be asking ourselves deeper questions about how we move. Again, it's back to the same thing. How do we move these kids in a direction that is better than ending up doing this stuff?
The thing for me is the disproportionality of it. So, like, if we think about how many cyber attacks are happening like every single day, and I'm not belittling like what they've done, like they had impact, but every day like people are robbed of hundreds and thousands. Like with more complex scams of this, like we don't see joint task forces and Secret Service going after any of those. Yet like a couple of blue ticks.
It's newsworthy though, isn't it? That's the thing.
Well, not just that. It feels like it's the power of that blue verified Twitter account. It feels like that some of it is to do with that. It's to do with it's not even the nature of the hack. The nature of the hack was such a kind of silly non-thing. It's to do with the reach that it has. And actually, like we said when we were talking about it a couple of weeks ago, it's the potential. It's the, and I'm reading now more research about the potential for, hacked social media to have so much influence in the world as a whole because we use it as a news source. And so in a way, these kids, because we've already said that's what they are, they're kids, they're going to be the ones that are sort of made to pay the price of that. That's not really their fault. It's not their fault that their technology is, that they were able to do what they did because of weaknesses in the system. And also their motivations have to be looked at, I think. Their motivations are certainly better than, some group of, organized criminals looking to ransom businesses for millions of dollars. Like, I don't know, perhaps there shouldn't be a sliding scale, but on the sliding scale, I feel like this is pretty low down.
No, and that's the thing. I think we might mention on the podcast earlier, but I did earlier, a few weeks back. But part of what we do is get some at-risk kids on our platform to use it to steer them down the ethical route, and that clearly is a real need, because how do some brilliant teenagers who want to test themselves, how do they actually go about that in a legal way? And there's not really many, like as Kev just told us. If you want to test if you can break into a system, you break into a system, and that's the problem. Is that then they're breaking the law, and then if they get put in, he'll be put in juvenile prison, or maybe even real prison, because they'll probably try him as an adult, and that's his life done, especially in the US.
You feel like the way the language is amongst these, amongst the Justice Department and the law enforcement agencies, you feel like they're talking about this like it's a really big deal. And so if you're one of those accused, then that, that has potentially quite life-altering impact.
You've all missed the funny bit, though. The most comical part of this entire
Let's get to
story.
It. The bit that will make this a brilliant TV show when they decide to make it.
That would be the Zoom bombing porn during the court hearing,
which I bet was one of the OG forum. There's a part of me now that's like,
it's not going to help him, is it?
The OG guys, they're kind of cool. Like, I wish I was in the OG gang.
You're taking off the pool now.
Can we talk about that, though? Can we talk about the Zoom calls? So I can never share my screen on our company Zoom calls because the restrictions are so high. But they have a court.
Why? Okay, so I know that we
set the restrictions on that.
I know that we prefer Zoom to WebEx. But why does it take 3 clicks to let someone else share their screen?
Well, it's better than it was before. Like, this is a recent feature that Zoom enabled after everybody laid into them for their lack of security. And you have to click the security button, then you have to click allow participants to share screen, and then the person has to share the screen. It's not that bad, and you can default enable it to off.
That is 3 clicks of my life that I will not get back.
Actually, you only, as the screen sharer, you only have 1 share screen. As the host, you have to do 2.
So what happens in court then? You just let it all just
In court,
free?
you just pop
through
the
the
link out
passwords.
to the entire world
Yeah.
to let anyone come in. And
what could
so, what were
happen?
they screen sharing
I'm just-
porn? Is
yeah,
that what they did?
you could. So you could
Yes.
screen
I'm just
share and you
watching
could
it now.
unmute yourself. You could
No, you
literally.
couldn't.
What are you watching?
Yes, you could.
I'm
they-
not watching
they-
porn.
So they joined. So obviously these things are a matter of public, whatever you call it. I can't remember the phrase.
Record.
Thank you. The matter of public record. So news coverage, and people were joining with names like MSNBC, CNN. So like if you're not vetting these people in or pre-sharing this, you're just going to see that and go, news, like it's high news, so let them in. And then this MSNBC account suddenly just goes, share screen porn.
I mean,
or
come
play
on.
music.
But
And then they wonder
didn't
why
set-
things
yeah.
like the Twitter hack happen.
Yeah.
I
They
mean,
didn't set the
basically what they
restrictions.
did was they said, now, we're really serious about making sure that people who have used social engineering to exploit people should face the full force of the law. Oh, hang on, we've just been socially engineered. How could that have possibly happened? I mean, it's ridiculous.
15
It's not even
whole
new. Like Zoom
seconds.
bombing's been around since like it became famous at the start of lockdown. So
In a way, gosh, I almost hate myself for saying this, but in a way, they sort of deserve it. It's like, it is such an extreme response to such a silly little thing to make a massive deal out of it. They kind of deserve to be Zoom bombed. Like, get your shit together. Like, you're saying that you're bringing these people to justice for essentially finding ways to circumvent computer security, and then you fail to secure a computer in the process of doing that. That's not their fault. That's yours. That's on you. There we are. I said it.
That is an incredible rant. This whole section, I'm not sure. There's a little bit of like, these kids, they were rolling around in BMW 3 Series and Rolex encrusted watches and like showing off about their lifestyle. And they took $1.6 million off somebody. Like,
I think it's because they are. There's a part of me. I think it's because they are kids. I think it's because I understand the biology. There's a neurobiology. Like there's something at play here that's beyond just they
Well,
were
hang on.
bad
So they-
men that did a bad thing.
yeah,
This is the one time Paul doesn't
hang
agree
on.
with.
Hang on a minute.
Paul doesn't agree with being illegal in this context.
The idea that there's a legal limit of when a juvenile, in American terms, can be tried, right? And that's their like an age where they can have they have responsibility for their own actions. And that's 16, isn't it?
What I'm saying is, if they were being convicted, if they had been accused and were being tried for an offence like nicking some sweets from the sweet shop or stealing a car, no one would this would have
I
no coverage. What I'm
see.
saying is, if you create that scenario, you have built this hype because the Justice Department and the
Got
agencies at play, they want the publicity. If you do that, you deserve everything you get.
So you're not defending children at the age of
No.
16, 17 to do whatever they want. You're saying that this whole thing, they are like, they have done a misdemeanor, but
they
it's
have.
probably
Of course
no
they have.
worse than like graffitiing on like the side
It's
of a
criminal
building.
damage.
It's
Criminal damage if it's
All right, I'll let you off.
anything more. Says the man who'd cough up millions to Russian criminal gangs.
That is totally acceptable. We need to get onto that.
The thing for me is there are companies like in the US, in the UK, like around the world, they're commercializing malware like spyware, and they're selling it, and that's doing like genuine harm. Where's the task force going after them? Why aren't they being shut down? Why aren't they being taken off? They're doing far more damage and profiteering off it, and that's the thing that gets me. I'm not belittling what they've done. Like they've done some bad stuff, but it just feels very disproportionate. And
What they should be tried for is not doing like when we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. That was great. Like they could have done more. And what's hilarious about this, they just did it for the lols. Like,
yeah,
is
for
it-
the lols.
What is actually interesting about this story is that a bunch of kids messing around in their bedrooms, let's say, are able to have such massive effect. Like, it's the ones that aren't getting caught that we should probably be worried about.
Here is another interesting little signal that comes off of the back of the way this unfolded. is that generally speaking, the younger the perpetrator, the less their ability to not talk about it afterwards.
Yeah.
So unless it's a ransomware gang who are attempting to extort money and so therefore talk to media outlets about, look, they should cough up and give us the money, where there is a person who just wants to tell the media that it was them who did it and how they did it, generally speaking, the indication there is that it's a younger person. And that would make sense because that's exactly what happened with TalkTalk. He kind of couldn't help himself from talking anonymously to the media about it because he was kind of like, this is massive kudos for me. Like, I've done this amazing thing. I need to tell everyone about it.
And it's also the what if they hadn't done it and someone else had done something worse? You know, it's kind of in a back way of identifying the vulnerability.
Like that.
Yeah.
Right, like, so like HackerOne bug bounty sort of thing.
Maybe they should be getting paid for it.
Well,
Right, they should be celebrated.
More than Kev got paid by F5. Anyway, that's for sure.
Still under embargo.
Oh, sorry, I can't talk about it. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please do subscribe, rate, and comment wherever you get your audio content. And if you want to know more about Immersive Labs, you can find us at immersivelabs.com or follow us on Twitter at Immersive Labs UK. Until next time, from all of us, goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Kev, you can say goodbye now. It's fine.
Such a dick.